All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here for today's meeting. We're going to get right to it because we have a very full agenda today and many people wishing to speak on various items. Our meeting today, as all of our meetings are, we'll start out with an invocation. Our invocation today will be given by Pastor Brian Kruckenberg from New City Church. So please, if you can, stand for the invocation.
God, we know that it's your heart to see your city flourish, and so we thank you for this city. We ask, Lord, that it would flourish. We know that you created government, and that we pray for the government of this city. We pray for the mayor, Mayor Stanton, all the council members. We pray that justice and mercy and the common good would be sought by all. Father, we ask, or God, that we ask that you'd be here, present, and that you would guide the decisions. So again, the common good, those from the least to the most, those needs would be met. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor, very much. Our Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by Councilman Michael Nowakowski.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilwoman Gallego. Councilman Gates.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Here. Councilman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Valenzuela. Here. Mayor Stanton.
Here, we have an interpreter with us today. Ms. Marquez, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Mi nombre es Leticia Márquez. Si alguien necesita asistencia para traducción al español, por favor, véame. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marquez. Next on our agenda is citizen comments. City Council reserves 15 minutes at the beginning of the City Council meeting for citizen request comments. We will go as far as we can with the people who wish to speak. If you're not able to speak in that first 15 minutes, we'll reserve additional time at the end of the meeting for additional citizen request comments. Our first speaker under citizen request is Mr. Kim Baker. Mr. Baker, are you here? You have up to 3 minutes to provide comments to this council.
Thank you. Mayor, I have a document for.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Clerk. Mr. Baker has a document to be presented to the council. Thank you.
Did the best I could with the names on there. Thank you. I want to read something for you out of the book of Proverbs. Chapter 6, verse 16, before I share what I need to share today. It says, "These things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift to run to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among the brethren." I share with you today a letter that was authored to me from the office of the police chief. I'm still here asking for that resignation. It names an officer in that document. I wanted each and one of you guys to have a copy of this. Mr. DeCiccio's office and I met last Thursday in regards to this. I'm asking that an RFI be done into this matter. I went and met with the officer named in that letter at the South Mountain Precinct last Wednesday night, because I wanted to know if you said these things, Mr. Officer Pendergrass. I met with this officer, and he denied even knowing me. He denied making any comments to the police chief or anyone that authored this letter. Why someone would implicate an officer who had nothing to do with this matter is hitting below the belt, Mr. Mayor. I met with him. I had a couple of witnesses who can verify this. Now I'm being told by Mr. Martin and others that they don't want to talk to me anymore. Mr. Mayor, I want to meet with you. That officer had nothing to do with this matter. The other morning, November 20th, my family and I were wakened to this on our garage: "You're dead, nigger." I believe it came from within your organization. Although I'm not afraid of a threat, make true on it, whoever put it out there. I was told not to do this here. I'm not running. All I asked you guys for was an apology from what your officer did to me out of his conduct. And no one seems to have a heart to hear my reasonable request. I've told you guys I'm not looking to sue you, but I do deserve that apology. I did not deserve what the officer did, and then he was permitted to resign. I will be back again and again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baker, for taking the time to be here in that important testimony. Next speaker will be Haley Ritter, up to 3 minutes of testimony, followed by Brent Kleinman.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's nice to see you all today. It was great being at the light rail vehicle testing thing last week. That was wonderful.
That's great.
Thank you. I'm here to speak on item 89, which is the Southeast.
I'm sorry, I have you right now for citizen request. If you're here to speak on a particular agenda item, I'm going to change the card to reflect 89. I'll call you up for 89.
Well, she told me to put 89 on both cards, so
Okay, so I have 89 crossed out, and then 2 would reflect this part of the meeting. But is 89 your number that you want to talk about?
Yes, but
Okay.
I can't be here until, I can only be here until about 4 o'clock, and I don't know when that item's going to come up. So I just want to make sure that you know that I'm in
Okay.
support of it.
The vice mayor knows who you are. He's going to do everything he can to make sure 89 gets up before you have to leave at 4 o'clock. But legally, you can't provide testimony on a particular item
Okay.
Unless it's called. So I'll call you back up for 89.
Okay.
Great to see you. Sorry about that. Sorry for the
No,
mistake.
that's okay. Thank you.
Brent Kleinman is the next speaker.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for allowing us to have this time to speak at the beginning of the meetings. I want to first make a comment to all the police officers and public officials that are here that wish you a happy holidays, and we appreciate the work you give us and provide the safety every day for us. Second of all, I wanted to just acknowledge the City Council, the Aviation Department, our new director of the airport, James Bennett, on the excellent work he is doing. I know he has been in negotiations with a lot of the airlines to work on the FAA issue, and the responses that he's been receiving haven't been exactly what we're looking for, but the work he's putting in and the responses he's giving are very straightforward, factual, and we truly appreciate the work he's doing on that and are hoping for a good solution to come soon. But I know that a lot of times we yell at you guys and say, you're not doing what you need to do or do more. So I just wanted to get up and say thank you very much for what you are doing.
Thank you very much for your testimony, your kind words. Although getting yelled at is part of the job description. So Joanne Scott Woods is the next speaker, up to 3 minutes, followed by Reverend Reginald Walton.
Okay, December 17th, tomorrow, marks the first anniversary of the Mayor and City Council's decision to revisit the 34 recommendations of the 2011 task force following the shooting of fallen citizen Remain Brisbane. Change began on April 20th when revisited recommendations were presented, along with the development of a 40-hour training module for all law enforcement. Next came a second body camera study on October 14th, adding a second 5% of body cams for our 2,900 officers. A third result that may prevent the death of another fallen citizen like Michelle Cousteau was the establishment of a mental health squad and a mental health advisory board. The fourth result that may prevent the death like Remain Brisbane's is a consideration of a new policy on foot pursuits, discouraging officers from solo pursuits. A fifth proposal is the hiring of a clinical psychologist for at-risk officers. The sixth is the formation of a community police trust initiative that was completed recently. And the final and seventh was a grant funding of a grant for hiring personnel for the Community-Oriented Policing Services Office. The People Demanding Action Community Coalition, beginning on April 22nd, presented criminal justice reforms to the police department. In August and November, we requested 2 dialogues, one with the mayor and one with the city manager, to no avail. After our requested meeting with the city manager for funding presented solutions, we were referred to Marshall Franklin, Director of Police Community Affairs, and Assistant Police Chief Michael Kurtenbach. We are continuing this dialogue in January along with Lieutenant Dennis Orender. I hope the coming year brings plans for complete funding for body cams and dash cams, a community review board with subpoena power, reform of Operations Order 4.48, training in citizens' rights, a proactive data-driven early intervention system for risk officers, and use of restraint training, a database on the PPD website documenting use of force, and 12 points of training along with documentation of minority employment. We appreciate the current funding and change of policies by the PPD and hope the need for police community trust is fulfilled even more greatly in the coming year.
Thank you very much, Ms. Woods. Reverend Walton, and then I think we have enough time. All right. I'm getting mixed stories here. All right. So if Reverend Walton goes reasonably quickly, then James Dibler will be the final speaker. Reverend.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I find myself before this august body very perturbed, and it is in particular aimed at one member of your board. Mr. DeCiccio, how are you, sir? Thank you. The last city council meeting, there was a protest, and protesters did make a chant called Black Lives Matter. That was not an official move of the movement. I stand, and we've had this conversation several times before, Mr. DeCiccio, where we have talked personally. I've come to your office. Am I correct? I do believe that at this time you can't answer.
Yeah. I think a quick yes or no would be okay under these circumstances.
Under these circumstances, yes. I've done my research, sir. So, yes or no, have I not met at your office and we have discussed, once again, Black Lives Matter, Mr. DeCiccio? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. At that meeting, did we not say that if you did not see me, that it was not an official Black Lives Matter movement? Yes or no?
Well, can I respond?
No. It's a yes or no question, Mr. DeCiccio.
Reverend Walton, yeah,
Hey, back off. You guys yell at us all the time. I'm yelling back at you. Stop it. Stop
Mr.
it.
DeCiccio,
Stop
I just want an answer
Stop
to that
it.
question, sir.
Stop it.
I just
Reverend
want an
Walton,
answer
this
to
is-
that
I
question,
You
sir.
be respectful, okay?
I'm being respectful,
I'm
sir.
asking the
I just want an
attorney.
answer to that
Look,
question.
I don't
Walton,
like what you guys
appropriate-
do, but
let
you
me,
have a right to do
Sal,
it.
just like Councilman DeCiccio.
Likewise, I do too.
The citizen request portion is intended by law for non-agendized items for an opportunity for the public to present information to the public. By law, we're not allowed to provide substantive answers unless there's a personal attack, and then there is an opportunity for a short rebuke by a member of this body. So in general, when it comes to citizen requests, our job is to listen and not to respond.
Okay.
So it's not intended to be a back and forth. So I apologize, but I just want to make sure
No
the law's
problem.
clear. What I just said doesn't count against your time. So Reverend Walton.
Being polite.
No problem. Sir, I'm being very polite. I just
Okay.
want a yes or no answer to that question.
Brad,
Have
can I
we
answer?
or have
I
we
don't
not
mind.
discussed Black Lives Matter?
This is not-
And your just for the record, your attacks against us, your speech against us, that several of your on your Facebook page, where people have called us the hate group. We're not a hate group. We've met with several of the members of the council to discuss what is greater for this city, what is best for this city. And if you take my rage, if you take my passion for this city, for lives, all lives, and especially black lives, if you take that as disrespectful, I welcome it. But I will not, and I cannot allow egregious, false attacks upon a movement that is for the betterment of this city, that is for all rights, that is for all people. And you, sir, gave me your word that you would not participate in such tactics, in such stunts. And so, yes, I am highly, highly, highly upset right now. Am I being disrespectful? No, sir. And I hope we can continue a dialogue to make this city the great city that it is. Several law enforcement officers, from the chief down, know and understand that when it comes to the betterment of this city, There is no one that you will find that will fight harder than me. And so for you to say that I'm being disrespectful, sir, if I'm being disrespectful, so be it. But the First Amendment, the Constitution, which you swore to uphold, guarantees me that right. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you very much.
And I will be back. And just a reminder, Black Lives Matter.
Thank you very much, Reverend Walton. Just as a reminder to everyone, in citizen request is an opportunity for the public to address this council, and it's the First Amendment opportunity. But because it's a non-agendized item, it's inappropriate for the members of the council, mayor, council, to be able to respond in any kind of substantive way. And when it comes to personal attacks, then the council does have a short opportunity to respond, but essentially we're not allowed to respond. So I want to make sure it was clear for everybody watching that Reverend Walton has every right to say what he says, and Councilman DeCiso under normal circumstances would have a right to make a substantive response, but under citizen request, our hands are tied.
Do I have an ability to respond back on this one?
Only not, I would politely suggest, he called you not have been accurate with information you had provided, so to the extent that your integrity has been impugned, but I would request that you don't get into any other substantive issue because it's a non-agendized item. Councilman.
Well, I'm not worried about my integrity or myself. I'm worried about what the police officers. The response back to that was this. I said, I will be happy to, not push back as long as they don't call our police officers murderers. And if they don't yell at them like they did at the last council meeting, I didn't like it, and I pushed back, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I believe that these types of groups need to have pushback, period. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Reverend Walton. Thank you, Councilman. James Deibler. Mr. Deibler, you have, you're the final citizen request, and then we'll get on to our agendized items.
Hello, I am James Deibler. I am going to school at Arizona State University at the downtown Phoenix campus. I am glad Phoenix transportation tax passed with flying colors. We need to extend bus route 67 from 67th Avenue and Lower Broadway to 75th Avenue and Baseline to meet the connection with bus route 77 Baseline Road. This extension would help the Fairfax High School students to catch that connection on time. This morning, I find an article on GCC website that they are proposing to build a cell tower at their North Campus on 59th Avenue and Happy Valley Road. I read an article about it that the students support that idea, but Phoenix residents might be upset about the idea. And thanks for no time. I will pass the article to someone else right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deibler. So I think there is a document, and I appreciate you coming, your testimony, and you're very subtle about where you go to school. All right, next item is the city clerk will read the 24-hour paragraph.
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G 6079, 6080, 6086, 6089, 6103, and 6104, S 42176, and 42191 through 42231, and resolutions number 21379 and 21386 through 21394.
Thank you very much. We now have approval of meeting minutes. Councilman Waring, did you have a chance to review the formal meeting minutes from October 21, 2015?
Yes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Councilman Gallego, have you had a chance to review the formal meeting minutes, October 28, 2015?
Move approval.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Do we have a motion on mayor's proposed boards and commission nominations?
Motion to approve mayor's boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. City council proposed boards and commission recommendations.
Motion to approve city council boards and commissions nominations.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We have a large number of citizens who are here to be sworn in advance of their service on key boards and commissions. I'll come down and administer the oath of office, and then please afterwards come behind the dais to shake hands with members of the council who want to say thank you in advance for your service. All right. Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. You're official. Thanks for your service.
Thanks very much for your service. I appreciate it. Oh, sorry about that. Thanks very much for your service. I appreciate it very much. Back again? Is there any boards you're not on? I don't know. They haven't gotten rid of me yet. Jim Waring, nice to see you. Sure, no, appreciate it. I like that jacket. Very beautiful. Rick, good to see you. Thanks. No, I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will. So I know you did a good job. Jim Waring, very nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Jim Waring, nice to meet you. Pleasure. Hey, Steve, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks. I know you'll do a good job. Watch Steve. Starbucks next. I mean, are we going straight?
Yeah. All right, thank you all in advance for your service. Your service is very, very important. Among the people being sworn in was Greg Fretz, our former labor negotiator. He's smiling a lot more in retirement. That's a tough gig. All right, next on the agenda is our liquor license applications. Vice Mayor, are we prepared with a omnibus on liquor license applications?
We are, Mayor. Motion to approve items 1 through 22, except the following. Items 1 through 4 and 19 through 21, and excluding these, and excluding no items for public comment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did it include 22 or did not include 22? I apologize.
It is including 22.
It does include 22.
Right.
Okay. And we have cards on these items. All appear to be in favor of the proposed motion by the Vice Mayor. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item are items 1 through 4 on the agenda. These are items that were continued from the last City Council meeting. They're in, Councilor Williams, how do you wish to proceed? Because I know you wanted to at least, you want to hear a staff report first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's hear a staff report on items 1 through 4. I'm assuming the staff recommendation is exactly the same on 1 through 4? Are there any differences between them?
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Denise Archibald with the City Clerk Department, and that is correct. The staff recommendation is the same for all 4 items. These 4 items are for Starbucks. We have number 19281, number 5435, number 19764, number 5837. All 4 of these establishments are requesting a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for a coffee shop. Consideration may be given to the applicant's personal qualifications and to the location on all 4 items, and staff is recommending disapproval of the applications based on a police department recommendation for disapproval for concerns with issuing Series 12 restaurant liquor licenses to these establishments.
All right, thank you very much. And again, there are 4 applications that are very similar. I think these are all Starbucks locations that are seeking, I guess, evenings is what they're calling it, but a restaurant liquor license. Detective Eric Brendel would like to provide testimony on this item, explain why the police department at this time is opposing these items. And then we also have cards from Brent Kleinman, and then I would like to hear from Andrew Lukowitz, who I believe is representing the applicant. Detective Brendel, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Detective Eric Brendel, Phoenix Police Department. I'm here to speak on all 4 liquor applications for Starbucks. First, I'd like to clarify the basis of the recommendation for disapproval. This disapproval isn't about whether or not Starbucks qualifies for a liquor license. Instead, this disapproval is based on the type of liquor license they applied for. The issuance of a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Starbucks would not be appropriate because Starbucks fails to meet the statutory definition of a restaurant. Based on the proposed business model, a Series 7 liquor license that serves only beer and wine is more suitable and appropriate for their business plans. The Series 12 restaurant liquor license applied for by Starbucks allows for the sale of all types of spirituous liquor, not just beer and wine. Unlike other types of licenses, a restaurant license is less expensive and less restrictive, allowing for the liquor sales adjacent to churches and schools. Since restaurant liquor licenses are not quota licenses, there is no limit to the number of licenses that can be obtained in the state. Under current state law, Starbucks fails to meet the statutory definition of restaurant. Pursuant to ARS 4-205.02, a restaurant liquor license is issued to an establishment that has suitable kitchen facilities connected to a restaurant for keeping, cooking, and preparing foods required for ordinary meals. Starbucks fails to meet these statutory requirements. Currently, Starbucks does not store any food ingredients on premises, nor do they cook any food on premises. Instead, all food items are prepared, cooked, and packaged off-site. These food items are then shipped to Starbucks locations where they are unwrapped and, if necessary, reheated at the time of sale. In addition, there are no cooks, no chefs, and no wait staff. Instead, existing baristas will merely unwrap prepackaged food items and reheat if necessary using only 2 convection microwave ovens. Based on these facts, Starbucks does not meet the statutory definition of being a restaurant, but instead remains primarily a takeaway beverage retailer. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 4-205.02 H2, a restaurant means an establishment that derives at least 40% of its gross revenue from the sale of food. However, again, Starbucks fails to meet the statutory definition. All Starbucks foods are prepared, cooked, and packaged elsewhere, and then shipped to stores. According to the state liquor department, food items that are prepared and packaged elsewhere, other than the licensed premises, do not count or factor into the 40% requirement. As a result, Starbucks will only be left with the sale of coffee, water, and tea. Sales of these items can be applied to the 40% requirement when they are consumed on premises. However, the majority of Starbucks sales are to go and thus consumed off premises. The statute further states that only a maximum of 15% of off-premises sales can be applied to the 40% gross revenue requirement. That would mean at a minimum 25% of gross food revenue must be from on-site consumption. But no prepackaged food will count according to the state. As a result, Starbucks will fail to meet the statutory definition of a restaurant. So basically, we would be licensing a beverage retailer for a restaurant liquor license. The issuance of a Series 12 restaurant liquor license to Starbucks that does not meet the requirement of a restaurant as outlined in state law is inappropriate. Should this license be approved, a precedence would be set which would allow similar non-restaurant businesses to obtain a Series restaurant license. Examples of this are QT, Target Food Court, etc. However, Starbucks is not without recourse. Although a Series 12 is an inappropriate license type, a Series 7 beer and wine only license is more suitable for the proposed activities. And also, it has no food percentage requirements. In all, the requirements for any particular liquor license type should be easily met and not require extensive interpretation of the law. As explained, this is not the case with the Starbucks liquor applications. For these reasons, the Phoenix Police Department recommends disapproval of these applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Detective Brendel. Any questions from this council for Detective Brendel after that very thorough report? Thank you very much. Brent Kleinman, you wish to speak on items 1 and 2 in opposition?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I come to you before on this matter, I guess items 1 through 4, but with 1 and 2 being in my district, that having these Starbucks with a full restaurant license is very concerning, and as the officer just mentioned, the precedent that this sets for potential other businesses that may be able to use this same policy and procedure to get restaurant licenses versus a beer and wine license or a bar-only license being a 6 or 7 license. I believe Starbucks has a right to serve beer and wine, and I believe if they want to do that, they should incur the cost of getting a beer and wine license. You also look at a Starbucks employee who is between the ages of 16 up to 19 years old. They are not going to be able to touch or help anyone who is buying or consuming alcohol at the establishment. And will Starbucks actually manage this, or will this just open the door for violations and a bigger strain on the liquor department to enforce this? I know there's approximately 20 Starbucks statewide trying to get these licenses, and I think if we start this process now and as a city approve that, it is going to be a definite problem down the road where we will see Starbucks potentially with the ability to have a full bar inside of that, and the businesses aren't set up to have alcohol the way they are, and it would be a bad precedent to set. And I think there's plenty of statutes that support the city denying these licenses. When you start talking about Arizona Revised Statute 4-201, that an inappropriate business is one that cannot clearly demonstrate that the sale of spirituous liquor is directly connected to its primary purpose. In no way is Starbucks' primary purpose to sell beer and wine. It is a coffee house, and it needs to stay that way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kleinman. One additional card, Andrea Lukowitz, representing the applicant. Ms. Lukowitz?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. Starbucks understands the issues addressed by Detective Brendel and Ms. Archibald and is committed to maintaining compliance with all requirements for a Series 12 license. Starbucks is in the restaurant business. It's been selling food since it first opened 40 years ago as a coffee house, and has expanded that menu over time throughout not just the United States but the world. It has a worldwide brand and is not a bar. One of the issues that I'd like to address is the difference between the Series 7 and the Series 12 licenses. As a restaurant, restaurants are required to maintain 40% food sales. Under a Series 7 license, although someone might have to pay $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for that license, it is more expensive to maintain a restaurant, not for the license, but for the equipment, for the purchase, the maintenance, the training, and the space that it takes up on the real estate, for which you could be paying $20, $30, $40 a square foot. The choice, we worked with the state liquor department months ago in anticipation of these applications and determined that the Series 12 license would be most appropriate. We have gone through 9 other local jurisdictions in Arizona who have all unanimously approved Series 12 recommendations for approval, excuse me. As to the specific statutory requirements, the Liquor Code doesn't define many terms, unfortunately, we all know that. Section 420502A actually is broad enough to encompass the way restaurants operate today. The statute requires kitchen facilities be connected with the restaurant. It doesn't say inside, it doesn't say at the licensed premises, it doesn't say adjacent to or within a few feet. Certainly, the legislature could have done that. The reality is most, if not all, multi-unit restaurants operate with a central kitchen or commissary, including many of the Series 12 licensees who operate at the airport. It makes sense as a business model. It ensures consistent food quality, compliance with health codes, reducing the risk of contamination, and to avoid duplication of effort and expense. Other terms that are not defined in the statute or rule have to do with the keeping, cooking, and preparing foods. The State Liquor Department's practice of disregarding certain foods isn't valid under Title 41's Administrative Procedures Act. The menu items sold at Starbucks are prepared exclusively for them according to its strict standards, instructions, and recipes. Starbucks will work with the Liquor Department to ensure compliance with all valid rules, and as you know, will be subject to the audit requirements as any restaurant licensee is. The evening's restaurant menu items are made for on-premise consumption. Starbucks will maintain the records necessary to show that it does meet the standards required by the law and the State Liquor Department's audit requirements. At currently licensed stores, restaurants outside Arizona, beer and wine sales account for 2% of each restaurant's gross sales. One issue that was raised that we addressed, I'd like to tell you that the site selection criteria for evenings restaurants includes consideration of the proximity of churches and schools, as mentioned earlier as the Series 7 and Series 12. For a Series 12 license, that is not a criteria. However, for Starbucks, it is. Starbucks is committed and will not apply for a liquor license within 300 feet of a church or a school in Phoenix, and it has no intention of selling spirituous liquor at any location. Starbucks identified long-term employees to serve as the premises managers for the licensed premises. Those documents were submitted to the State Liquor Department in the normal course of the application process, and those people will meet the standards for licensure as required. In addition to the store manager training, all regional and district managers will be trained in responsible alcohol sales and service, as well as all employees at the evenings restaurants. Evenings restaurants employees will be 19 years or older as required by state law. No one under 19 can handle liquor. We will not have anyone in those stores under 19 years old. We believe Starbucks meets all of the requirements of the statute as well as the Arizona Administrative Code rules and will continually be subject to review and compliance with the State Liquor Department's audit. Starbucks is going to implement strict policies for sales and service and will work with State Liquor Department and local law enforcement to identify, control, and monitor any issues of concern.
Ms. Lukowicz, you have any other additional testimony?
I don't. I'm here to answer questions.
All right, I'll now ask if members of this council have any questions for Ms. Lukowicz, Detective Brendel, or our professional city staff. Just with a note that any vote taken today by the City Council is a recommendation. Under the state liquor laws, the City Council is not the final decision maker on liquor licenses, except for special events. But for Series 12 liquor licenses, we simply make a recommendation to the State Liquor Board. The State Liquor Board occasionally they follow our recommendations, but we're a recommending body, and they're the final decision maker as it relates to liquor licenses. Any questions by members of the council? Councilman Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for staff. Were there any, so we have 4 applications here, is that correct?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Gates, yes, we have 4 applications in the City of Phoenix right now pending.
Did we have any public protests at any of these 4 locations?
No, we did not receive any public comments during the 20-day public comment period.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Pastor, do you have a question?
I wanted to know the cities, Arizona cities that, other cities that have voted for this.
Ms. Lukowicz, yeah, what you indicated that This is part of a larger number of applications by Starbucks, most of which are located outside the city of Phoenix. Under what other cities that your client is looking at?
Yes, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the cities who have approved applications are in Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, Gilbert, Peoria, Lake Havasu City, Sedona, Pima County, and Prescott Yavapai Indian Tribe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. None of which have yet been voted on by the State Liquor Board. Is that accurate at this time?
That's correct. No action has been taken by the Liquor Department.
Other questions by members of the council? Councilman Waring?
Thank you. For Brad Holm. Brad, we met with Starbucks, I guess it was last week or early this week, I can't remember. So is it a true statement that these are existing Starbucks stores, they're not new stores?
That's correct, Mayor, Councilman Waring.
They're going to have black logo instead of green logo. I think that's the only way people will know.
I think it may have a question better for Ms. Lukowicz. Do you know how they're going to designate the stores that are
That's what they told us, but I
the evenings
guess-
locations?
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly the way you would know. Their stores will operate in much the same way through the morning. It's a very limited selection of beer and wine availability, so that's one way you would know it's there.
Well, I guess my testimony will be, that's what they told us. But
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that's correct. They told us that there would be a logo differentiation and that the primary factor for people being able to tell was that their typical escutcheon, their logo would be black instead of green.
So you're asking Mr. Holm not as capacity as city attorney, but as
No.
a witness to the conversation?
I guess.
All right.
I didn't know if there's somebody from Starbucks here. So I guess my point was, these are regular stores that people would go in and wouldn't necessarily know that there's any difference, which is fine. But I think they told us with this liquor license, they could switch over to hard liquor, and I think you confirmed this, without asking the city council, and these could be right across the street from schools and stuff, as many Starbucks I'm sure are right now.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that's correct. That's what they told us. And in point of fact, they said that they had some citing requirements that they were going to give us that suggested what their self-imposed citing requirements were, but they didn't.
But
we haven't received those yet.
We have not, we asked for some information, didn't get it. At least I didn't get it. You
That's
didn't get
correct.
it?
I didn't get it either.
So made request, didn't get it. You know, it's self-imposed. That means it's out of our hands as a council. I know what they said, and I don't question Starbucks, but it just makes me nervous. You know, they say this isn't their intent to serve hard liquor. They say they're not going to be by schools, but obviously corporate leadership changes, and there won't be anything we can do about it at that point if they change their minds. And keeping in mind, a few years ago, they were not selling liquor at all. Obviously, a corporate change, not unlike the one that I'm projecting could happen in the future. So that just makes me a little concerned. I just want to get on the record that we had the similar takeaway from the same conversation. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Councilman Waring. Councilwoman Gallego?
I have a question for the applicant. Our staff had testified that this might open up convenience stores, I think particularly convenience stores that might have on-premise consumption seating. I think this council probably wouldn't want to see every convenience store have a restaurant liquor license. Could you sort of speak to the counterpoint to that?
That question was raised at some point to me earlier, and I do not see the correlation. I'm sorry. It didn't make sense to me. I don't think, I don't know how a QT would create a restaurant. They would have to go through all the same process. They would have to have the county's approval as well as, I'm sorry, I don't know how QT or why they would become a restaurant.
I think the idea was that their food is produced for the consumption or for QT specifically.
It's our understanding that stores like QT maybe go to Starbucks, what's wrong with me? Would they go to Costco, or they're ordering much of the items that they receive from Cisco. Most restaurants get, most is a big word, I apologize. Many restaurants get much of their food that is already prepared or packaged. Again, it's a smart business thing to do. It reduces risk of contamination. People aren't having to invest in their own line of food service. This Starbucks food is prepared for them by people they are in constant touch with exclusively for them, goes distribution to Starbucks only. I don't know where QT gets their Hostess items or their, I don't know what else they have there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any other comments by members of this council? All right, Councilman Williams, do you have a motion?
Yes, but I wanted to ask Ms. Lukowitz, didn't
Please.
you say that you were making a commitment not to be near a church or a school?
Councilman Williams, yes, that is part of the citing criteria for Starbucks search of locations, and they are committed to not placing or requesting a liquor license within 300 feet of a church or school, which is a requirement for a Series 7 license, but not for 12.
Thank you. Mayor, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Councilman Gates, you have a question or a
Mayor,
comment?
just a follow-up to this, just since we have you here. When you say 300 feet, is that from property line to property line?
The law, I would say the law right now says from the outside of a licensed premises to a fence of a recreation area, but it could be from building to building, property to property line. It would certainly be something that would be taken a very close look at, and if there were any question, it would be set aside without.
Since you are since your client is willing to subject itself to the Series 7 requirements, would it be fair to say however those requirements are defined under Series 7 is what Starbucks would follow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gates. All right, Councilman Williams, did you have a motion? And then we'll see if there's a second and if there's any additional comments by members of this council.
Mayor, I want to say that Starbucks has been around for a long time. It is an excellent company. I have friends of my grandkids who are regulars. In fact, a couple of them are employed there, and you are putting them through school. Thank you very much. I read their menu. It is regulated through certain hours. It is sounds quite tasty, and it is unique. But I don't want to dismiss the officer's report. I understand what you're saying, but I can also think of some restaurants that do not make the food on site. It is prepared elsewhere and brought in, heated, and served. So I disagree with you on that point, although I understand where you're coming from. I believe strongly that this is an addition. This is today. This is where people go. If you go into a Starbucks in the afternoon, evening, you see young people sitting in there doing homework, working on computers, snacking, and a glass of wine is not going to kill anybody. I believe very strongly. You told me it's not a drive-through, pick up a glass of wine. You have to be inside, you have to be seated, so I think that eliminates some neighborhoods' concern. So I am prepared to move this forward with the recommendation of approval on all four cases.
All right, so we have a recommendation of support. We have a second. Any additional comments by members of this council? I'll only add that I appreciate very much the testimony of Detective Brendel providing his and the police department's statutory interpretation. I respect that greatly. This is a close call. It's not an easy one because it is a little bit of a disruptor, if you will, in this space. It reminds me of when this council grappled originally with enforcement on Uber and Lyft because they didn't fit neatly into the existing state law. Our police department, in consultation with many of the elected officials up here, in consultation with city staff, determined we should not enforce against Uber and Lyft under the existing state law, even though we probably could have, because we wanted to wait till there was a legislative action to kind of finalize that. We were in a gray area, certainly. If this council votes today to support this motion, it's only our recommendation to the State Liquor Board as to what their interpretation of state law would be. I am guessing that this will spur some action at the state legislature to relook at Series 7, Series 12, because Starbucks is in a unique space, and I'm assuming that's what's going to be a follow-up action. But if it voted in the affirmative, it's only a recommendation to the State Liquor Board as how they should interpret existing state law in this somewhat gray area. So the motion is in favor. We have a second. Councilman DeCiccio, please.
And Mayor, I'm just going to speak to it, and maybe I could put everything into perspective too. I think a lot of people have a perceptual issue when they see Starbucks. They think of like just basically a coffee house, when in fact that they really are more than that. They're a restaurant. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that people have to get over. And they think about, well, wait a second, how can they do that over there? But if you just think of things of them as a restaurant, because they are a restaurant, where they prepare the food, basically in my end, is just irrelevant. It's the fact that people eat there. It's a restaurant. They're going to be changing their dinner menu, but they will have to abide by all the same state laws that any other restaurant has to do. Their employees are going to be trained like any other restaurant. They have to abide by every single rule, every rule that any other restaurant would have to abide by. The other issue comes down to, are they going to be looking at doing this in every spot? That would not even be logical for any restaurant to do that. But if you look at most of these locations, and all the locations that they've picked right now, they're all around other restaurants. They're all in locations like that. I'm going to be supportive of the motion. That's why I made the second on it, is that it is the way we view the world sometimes. And what the mayor just talked about, the Uber and Lyft and the taxi issue, it's just how we start seeing this world change around us. And it is. It's dynamic, and we have to move with it, too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Any additional final comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the motion passes on an 8-1 vote. Next item on the agenda, I believe, is item 19. Is that correct, Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Item 19 is a liquor license in District 7, Sosoba. Councilor Nowakowski, how would you like
Mayor,
to proceed?
can we go ahead and group 19, 20, and 21?
You want to do them all together?
Yes, sir. Basically, I just want to do some comments on it. Just really excited about having these 3 new liquor licenses come before District 7 today. We have 3 new restaurants in our district. It shows that downtown Phoenix is growing and it's vibrant. And I just really want to thank our staff and all those individuals that believe in downtown and are investing in downtown, especially the local businesses. Just thank you so much, and I'll be supporting this this recommendation for a liquor license. And special thanks to Savannah that continues to help out in the community, and she's one of them that's applying for the a restaurant in our downtown area, down Grand Avenue. So with that, I'd like to motion to approve items 19, 20, and 21.
The motion and a second, and I just want to say that despite what was said in the previous item, Chef Silvana would never prepare anything but fresh food on site. All right. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. All right, next item on the agenda, Vice Mayor, is item, let's see. We have ordinances, resolutions, and new business. That's an omnibus motion. Are we prepared with an omnibus motion?
We are.
Vice Mayor. Oh, I see. Okay, there's one to continue. Okay, got it. Okay.
Motion to approve items 23 through 79.2, except the following items: 23, 24, 25 AG, 26, 31, 35, 43, 44, 46, 60, 79, 79.1, and 79.2. Items 56 and 65 have been withdrawn. Items 47 through 50 have been continued to January 20th, 2016, and excluding these items for public comment: 23, 24, 30, 31, 38, 46, 52, 70, 79.1.
79. So that is our omnibus motion. Questions by members of the council on the Is 34 held out? Is it 34 or 44? 44 is held out. Any other requests to hold out additional items? Okay, so that's a motion. Is there a second on that? Items 47 through 50, which I do believe relate to the proposed Roosevelt Facilities District, is proposed for continuance. But Kurt Mays, you oppose the item and do want to speak on the issue of a continuance? Please come forward. Now would be the time to speak about the proposed continuance. In favor of the proposal but not wishing to speak is Rhonda Boyle. It'll be up to you whether you want to speak on the issue of a continuance. That's what's recommended on this motion. And then is it Lon Engelhorn, opposed, not wishing to speak. If you do wish to speak on the continuance, please come forward. Mr. Mays. Good to see you.
Mayor Stanton, Council. My name is Jim Abraham.
and this is Kurt Mays. We're partners on this parcel. There's three things that I want to mention to you and make you aware of. One, we oppose the BID, Business Improvement District Assessment, because it does not benefit us as 30-year property owners.
By the way, the address is listed as 339 East Portland. I assume that's the property
That's
you're
right,
talking
that's
about. Okay.
correct. Why the city granted a $100 million development to Alliance Corporation and did not include our parcel, it's mind-boggling. Upon completion of this development, our property would be an eyesore to the area. The highest and best use of this property is high-rise, a city park, not a rooming house.
I have to stop you right there, and I apologize. By law, because the motion is for a continuance to be heard at a later date, we can only hear testimony as to whether or not the item should be heard today or continuance. Your testimony is perfect, but it'd be the date that we hear the item substantively, when the item's on the agenda.
Kurt, say something.
We would request the opportunity to speak with Councilmember Nowowski regarding the issue and how it impacts the overall
Which
area.
district are you talking about? Nowakowski, Councilman
Yeah,
Nowakowski,
yes.
I apologize, yeah. I thought you said Nadolski, and there was a Councilman Nadolski a few years back, but yes.
And if it's
Councilman
333
Nowakowski.
East, you might want, it would be in Council District 8.
Okay,
If it's
my
west,
apologies.
you would want.
It's 339
I would encourage
East
speak. I
Portland.
would like the opportunity to speak with both council members.
Okay. So both council members will, I'm sure their staff will contact you and try to set up an appropriate meeting. Thank you for coming down and providing testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so there be no other cards on any of the proposed omnibus items. There's a motion. There's a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, I believe, is item number 23. Is that right?
And 24, the cards are mostly on both items.
Okay. Oh, we have we have numerous cards on both items. Let's see. Councilman Nowakowski, I don't know if you want to make comments now or hear from the public on the proposed ordinance. How would you like to proceed?
Let's hear from the public first.
Okay. This is the item 23 and 24 concern city rules and regulations as it concerns drones within the city limit. The first speaker on the item, who is in favor of the proposal, is our friend, Mr. Art Brooks. Mr. Art Brooks, you want to come forward? Okay, Mr. Brooks, hold on just a moment.
Okay.
Legally, we have to read the title of the ordinance. Since we're hearing 23 and 24 together, and 24 is the actual ordinance, appropriately, we should read the title first, and then I'll hear your testimony.
Item 24, ordinance number G6086, an ordinance promoting commerce and innovation while protecting privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties in the use of unmanned aircraft systems by amending Chapter 23, Morals and Conduct, to add new Article 13, and amending Chapter 24, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, Division 2, Section 24-49 of the Phoenix City Code, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Brooks, up to 2 minutes. Good to see you.
Mayor and council, good to see you, all friends. And my name is Art Brooks. I'm the president and CEO of the Arizona Broadcasters Association. Our members are all the free, local, over-the-air radio and TV stations in the state. I put down as favoring, and I think it's a good idea to have some restrictions, but I also believe the FAA has gone to a lot of effort on this. And our suggestion would be that the council strongly consider the iFly Safe pre-flight checklist that the FAA has now put out, and it's very concise, and I think the last thing we'd want is for the city to put themselves in a libelous situation as well down the road with too many restrictions. But I think by following their guidelines, that's what we would strongly encourage you to do that. Our general counsel and friend of the council, Tom Chauncey, is also a pilot, and he even went to the extent of drawing a map of all of the airports in the area of Maricopa County and the 5-mile radius in little circles. there's no room for drones. No, I mean, there are room, but not around those restricted areas, and that's what the FAA is all about as well.
Mr. Brooks, did you send us that map, or the map that Mr. Chauncey?
I'll give it to you right now.
Yeah,
if
please
you want. Yeah.
pass it around. It'd be great to
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah. Each
I
red
used-
circle is a 5-mile radius.
I used to practice law with Mr. Chauncey. I hope he didn't charge you too much for that map-making skill.
I will not discuss that with you.
All right. The point you're making is that obviously the federal government is
Okay.
looking intensely at the issue of drones. We may be preempted. Any action we take may subsequently be preempted by federal law. I think
Yeah.
it is the intent of the councilmen who've worked so hard on this to, at least in the meantime, if they don't
Absolutely.
preempt us, that we have rules and restrictions in place.
We were represented at the summer conference with on the public safety issue with Nowakowski and Councilman DeCiccio, and we even David Bodney offered up a draft following that meeting, and we were in favor of that draft, by the way. So we've been working on this since along with you guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you.
Doug Andrink is next. You're marked as neutral, but requesting to speak to the council, so up to 2 minutes.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few friends. My name is Doug Andrick. I'm a former Air Force pilot and organizer of the Phoenix Area Drone Users Group. We are part of a national nonprofit community-based organization supporting recreational drone use in the Phoenix metro area. We routinely hold meetings to educate our members on safe and responsible design and operation of drones, provide community networking opportunities, and of course go out and fly safely together. With just word-of-mouth volunteer support, our membership has seen explosive growth of over 480% in 2015 to more than 400 members. Before I jump into my group's request, let me just state that Phoenix is one of the best places in the country to operate drones both commercially and recreationally, and our economy stands to benefit greatly from a proactive regulatory approach to integrating this new technology. Our excellent weather, relatively flat land and building scape, and spacious city layout are all desirable qualities for drone operations. In my opinion, Phoenix has been handed a huge head start in the race to adopt this new technology by these very characteristics. Amazon isn't going to deliver too many drones or too many packages in Seattle. In this last year, several of our members have started businesses that sell, educate, or operate drones that benefit our economy and serve our society in a positive way. This December, over 12,000 drones are expected to be sold to recreational users in the Phoenix area, and more than 1 million nationwide. To put this into perspective, less than 2,300 puppy dogs will be sold during the same time frame. One of the major problems facing recreational drone enthusiasts is where to go and fly. Skateboarding kids faced this same problem when the industry exploded in the early 90s, but over time, dedicated skate parks became the norm rather than the exception. The current policy towards the use of city parks for RC use is outdated, although the proposed regulations do address this to some degree. While similar to RC, airplanes and helicopters, in many respects, recreational drones with integrated flight controllers are much easier to operate, are quieter, and safer. Multicopters, which are over 90% of the recreational drone market, are highly maneuverable, can fly in much smaller spaces, and when weight limited, present a much smaller risk than faster, always moving RC aircraft. We ask that the council consider the following to positively embrace the growth in recreational drone use. Designate more parks or areas within parks for recreational drone use. Consider opening publicly owned undeveloped land as recreational drone use areas. Provide signage at parks that clearly outline limitations for their use, both for operators and for the general public's awareness. Coordinate park usage with the FAA and local airport authorities, such as the 5-mile rule, which was previously mentioned, and promote city parks as an opportunity to naturally connect with other users and develop a deeper respect for safety. Thud Park, otherwise known as Chandler Bowl, has been an incredible success for the RC community for over 20 years, and I urge the council to consider this park as a starting point for other parks. Providing an increased number of public areas for drone users will cut the number of privacy and other incidents, by providing people with a known flight area rather than to find an empty lot, city street, or their backyard. Our group is ready and willing to assist the city in developing and promoting safe and responsible drone use. We are currently reviewing the current revision, and I'm sure some of our other members might comment more specifically on what is proposed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andring, for your testimony and for bringing the folks from the community to share your time. I assume they're here because they share your viewpoints. I have another, I'm going to go